her, but is beat to it by a man. He asks ? About picking up his repaired computer. Claire recognizes the man, but she doesn't know from where. He is skinny, with bulging eyes and a sort of painful voice. ? Points the man to a counter beside her. Claire didn't notice the counter before, despite a hanging sign that says pickups and a large arrow that bounces on a spring. Familiar man frees up ? And begins to talk with the worker behind the pickup counter. He's a plumber or an actor? ? Says in a soft whisper to Claire, who thinks the same thing but doesn't say it out loud. Are you ticket 29? ? Asks. Claire takes a moment. I'm here for a job interview. The listing was on a Mac message board. Ah, okay, you need to see David. There is a commotion at the pickup counter. Claire and ? Look over. You just said, hey, aren't you an actor? Aren't you Steve Buscemi? Familiar man says, his painful voice agitated. Yes, but to pick up a machine, you need ID. It is the rule. I need to write the number down. You could be pretending to be Steve Buscemi to get his computer, which aside from being valuable, has personal information. The man working the pickup desk explains. Can you make an exception? I'm clearly Steve Buscemi. Hang on. The pickup desk worker slides over to ? And they huddle in place. Can I skip the ID part? Pickup worker asks. Maybe you should ask David, ? Says. No, I'm scared of David. Could you just come over and make sure it really is Steve Buscemi? And we'll put it in the notes, and then both initial it? You mean so we both can get in trouble? Customer's waiting, pickup worker says, tilting his head towards Steve Buscemi. ? Turns to Claire. I'll be right back. Can you make sure everyone who enters takes a ticket? Claire nods. Hang on, you need a ticket, Claire says, and points to the ticket machine. Do you know how long the wait will be? A woman asks, taking a ticket. Oh, sorry. Don't you work here? Not really. ? Returns. She launches into a small speech on the fluid nature of identity in the soul. The speech concludes with the fact that David's office is near the bathroom. Shelves of vintage radios and telephones make up the bounds of the office. A man whose suspenders curve around his belly introduces himself as David. Claire shakes his hand and notices he has no shoes on. They sit down at his old oak desk in old oak chairs that swivel. A wire runs above David's desk. Claire stares at the floating line that has a set of clips and some kind of motor attached. David sees her staring and grabs a baby blue Sony microfloppy disk from a drawer. He clips the disk to the wire and gives it a little tug. The motor starts, and the disk begins to float leftward, toward another oak desk. That's Dick's desk, David explains as he tugs at the wire again, making the disk float back to them. So why do you want to work at TekServe? David asks, putting the microfloppy back in his drawer. I love Macs, Claire says before the drawer can close. David asks if she has any technical training or mechanical ability. She has no training, but is pretty sure she's mechanical. Claire mentions drilling a hole into her desk to hold a pencil, and that she repaired her father's gray plastic suitcase with epoxy. Have you ever used FileMaker? David asks. No, I don't even know what that is, Claire answers. The interview is over. Time out. Louis J. Schweitzer was rich, the best kind of rich. He bought his wife gondolas, theaters, and a taxi medallion. He gifted his barber with a shop in exchange for the promise of haircuts any time of day for life. When Louis's favorite radio station played too many ads, he bought it and replaced the ads with poetry. The radio station was WBAI, and a few years after buying it, in 1960, Louis gave the station to the Pacifica Foundation, a nonprofit radio network located in Berkeley, California. Listener-sponsored with no ads, Pacifica could do whatever it wanted, which was to fight McCarthy and broadcast the Beat Poets in full. Pacifica took over WBAI and turned it from a classical station to a counterculture hub, with a mishmash of programming. Every weeknight from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m., WBAI aired a show called Radio Unnameable, hosted by Bob Fass. It was a new kind of radio. Yes, music was played, but sometimes backwards or two records at the same time. There were long calls from listeners with political rants encouraged. The show was unscripted and flowed from Bob Fass's lips in a steady stream. Unnameable was beloved by night shift workers, anarchists, musicians, and David. In 9th grade, David began volunteering on Unnameable. He was